Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paul Brown Show, the award-winning Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest will be Mr. Jose Manjarres. How you doing there, sir?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to be here, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Financial Analyst. He's a university professor. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's a long story, but I came to this country about 21 years ago, 1989, and somehow I put myself through college, and somehow I finished my MBA at Long Island University up in New York, and somehow I work on Wall Street. Somehow I end up in Charlotte, North Carolina. So here I am.
That's a good place to be. Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, I know you deal with a lot of the political aspect and the financial. Why does that interest you?
You know, I was, my son and I, we were driving down 85 South, and I said to him, we were talking about something, and he said he hates Notre Dame. And I said to him, what do you hate Notre Dame? He said, no, I just hate them. I said, but just tell me why. Do you know any professor at Notre Dame? Do you know any teachers there? Have you ever been in Notre Dame?
Correct.
And he said, no. And he said, I hate the quarterback. I said, Then he said he loved Chapel Hill. I said, okay. So, but my son, who is 10 years old,
Correct.
somehow he created this love for the university, which is Chapel Hill. And he created this do not like university, which is in this case in Notre Dame. But the reason for that is because the sport, he sees the sport as a way of I love the university. So basically what we're creating is a society basically in which I love the university because of the sport, but I do not love the university because of education.
Correct.
We have to learn to love the university because of education. I love Chapel Hill because they have a great program on medicine, law, biology. We have to teach that to our kids. But there's a reason why 8 out of the 10 biggest stadiums in the United States are owned by universities.
Why is that?
Because we want to create that love or that hate for my son who wants to, in years to come, like for example, the University of Tennessee has a stadium which is 100,000 people in it. The same goes to Alabama, the same goes to LSU, the same goes to UPenn. Because in years to come, when my son going to decide to go to school, it will transform into $150,000 loan that he's going to own to the university. So as of now, one of the problems that we have, obviously, is the deficit. And you know, if we study the deficit in this country, back from the 70s up to the present, it just keeps going higher and higher and higher. Now, it went higher during the Bush administration. It went higher during the Obama administration. But it's no Bush or Obama. It's just going on from years ago. The common denominator between you and everybody else in this country is education. The problem is not housing. The problem is not the banking industry. The problem is not if we have high unemployment, no unemployment. No, the problem is education. That's the common denominator between all of us. Now, by my son loving this university, the chance of him playing for a football team or basketball team, it's pretty tough to get in, which I hope he does.
Correct.
However, not everyone in those teams has scholarship. I went to school on a scholarship, full scholarship. I was an NCAA champion. I did great. I don't have any complaint. But that's not these days. And back then, the university was cheaper. Today, the average college loan is about $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, even if you go to a state school. So what we have to do is basically to create love for education,
Okay.
not love for the sport. And then it will take a lot of work for us to do that.
I got a question. Don't a lot of these universities, just like you said with these big type football athletic program, don't they rely a lot on these sports as far as the income to come in to bring in that extra income? Because it's like you said with these stadiums with 100,000 people, that's a lot of income that's coming to that university.
Well, this is the way, if you have an institution to educate, just to teach, for the students to come into the place and acquire knowledge so they can go out in the workforce, they can go out and create something, the education is way cheaper. Now, if you have people who comes in to play sport and then go to school, then it's something else. Now, I personally know students who decide to go to certain university because they play certain sport at that university. They just want to be part of the team. A lot of people will give, I will not say sacrifice financially, just to belong to the Alabama team or to the LSU team, to the Nebraska team. I know a lot of people, a lot of students, they decide to pay to go to school there because they have a chance to be in the team. So, yes, it is very expensive for a university to keep all that together. But if you take a university just to teach, it's very inexpensive. Now, there is a school in California. It's called Black Spring. It's a very small school. I believe there are only 8 students at that university. The people who decide who gets in are the students. If you get in, it's $50,000 education that they'll give you $50,000 for you to go to school there. You have to come out, I think, with $1,500. That's all. You have to come out during the entire year, during the years you're going to be there. So what I'm saying is, education itself is very inexpensive. What is very expensive is to keep those programs alive. Because it costs, it's a lot of people that you have to hire, a lot of insurance, a lot of things that you have to go through. So yes, it's very, very a challenge for a university to keep those two things together. But since I believe the problem is education, we have to teach our kid. Look, son, you want to go to Chapel Hill? Great. Just remember this. If you graduate from Chapel Hill and you don't have a scholarship, you're going to end up with $70,000, $80,000 in debt. However, I just want to let you know that. So we have to teach our kid to love the university for education. We have to teach our kid to say, look, let's look other avenues. For example, you can go to CPCC, take some classes at CPCC. It's way cheaper, and you can transfer those to a university. And I think the current situation, community college will play a major role where we are in.
Correct.
And that's one way what we can go to get that education, so it minimizes the cost of the long run. Because think about it, you're going to have a 22, 23, 24-year-old person with $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in debt. The true unemployment right now is about 25 to 30%. It's not 8% as the saying that is 8%. No, it cannot be 8%. Because if you count the people who are underemployed, which is they used to make $50,000 and now they make 40,
correct,
they cannot count as unemployed, but they are underemployed. If you count those people plus the unemployment, it's about 25%. So if my son is going to graduate from Chapel Hill with that amount of money owing, where is he going to find a job? with the 25% unemployment. And that is one of the things that we are facing now. How do we educate ourselves without being in debt? But the problem is the debt has been with us for years. It's not just Obama, it's not just Bush, it's been with us for years. And then how do we stop that? How do we handle that? And that's a challenge for us, that we have to know how we're going to do that. So, yes, the universities, LSU, Alabama, Nebraska, Chicago, UPenn, they have all those big programs. But the student will graduate with between $80,000 and $120,000 in debt. So that's what we have to play something. We have to have a balance in there.
Correct. I know you brought some charts along. Your first chart, maybe you can explain to the viewing audience a little bit about it.
Well, yes. The first chart basically it was one. I was teaching one class, and I asked the students, say, who do you think was the best president in the United States? Mm-hmm. And you know, that we know, and I said, everybody. Some people said Reagan, some people say Bill Clinton, some people say, and I told them Jimmy Carter. People say Jimmy Carter. Say, Mr. Manjarres, how can you say Jimmy Carter? You don't sound like someone who will say Jimmy Carter. Say, well, there's a reason for that. The basis for saving, the reason for you, for me, for everyone to save is interest. That's the reason why will you save. Mm-hmm. Reagan had one of the strategies was for people to save money. Yes, we did have high inflation, but you also have a high interest. Now, one of the problems that we have now is that we do not save. The system do not allow you to save. So Reagan came in and they said, look, you know, we don't have any more, we don't want to save anymore. And then since Reagan, as the chart would tell, since Reagan up to now,
correct,
it's just been down, the interest been down, and the interest right now is zero. The Federal Reserve interest is zero. So why would you invest? Why would you go into a bank to deposit $100,000 in a CD when they're not going to give you any interest? So the reason for you to save is the incentive for you to save is nothing. Now, if you measure it that way, yes, during the Reagan, you have the ability to save because you want to save money with high interest.
Correct.
So that is, and it basically shows what happened during every Democrat, Republican, and if we analyze the chart, it shows that it happened more during the Republican more than Democrat. And based on the chart, that's what happened. The Republicans can be more in charge, okay, based on since Nixon up to the present. So the second, if I'm not mistaken, the second data that I brought in was
deal with accounts.
Yeah, it was the account balance.
Correct.
You know, if I have, let's say I have in the bank $1,000, okay, but I owe $2,000, so my account balance is negative $1,000. Yeah, I don't have any money. I'm in the negative. Mm-hmm. Well, and these numbers do not come from me. These numbers come from the CIA World Book, okay, Fed book, and it's $47 trillion in the negative. That comes from them. That doesn't come from me. That is just $47 trillion in the negative. Then the closest, and we are the highest country with the negative account balance. And then after that, there's another one, Italy, then Spain, United Kingdom, France. But if you see, you have the United States, Italy, Spain, United Kingdom, and France. 5 of the 5 countries with highest negative current balance are industrialized countries. Okay. It's telling you something. It's telling you something that something happened in the industrialized world. And we lead that. We lead with $47 trillion. and it's very dangerous. Now, that $47 trillion, meaning that education loan that we have in this country,
Correct.
is a reflection of this $47 trillion and the negative that we have. And that's something that we have to study. We have to look how we can reverse this. It's very difficult to do. It's extremely difficult. It will not happen. I don't think it will happen during our lifetime. I don't think it will happen. It will take more than 2 generations for this to make a turn, or to the right or to the left, but to turn, it will take time for this to move one way or the other. Now,